In Genesis 16, we encounter the story of Sarah, Abraham, and Hagar. After they lived in Canaan for 10 years, Sarah and Abraham had had no children. She tells Abraham that because God had kept her from having children, perhaps she's meant to have children by means of Hagar, her Egyptian slave girl. Abraham listens to Sarah and takes Hagar as a wife, and she soon conceives a child. She lets pride get the best of her and looks at Sarah with contempt. Sarah gets angry at Abraham and mistreats Hagar, who runs away into the wilderness. But the angel of the Lord finds Hagar by a spring and tells her to return to Sarah. He also promises Hagar that he'll give her innumerable offspring. She'll soon bear a son who she calls Ishmael because God has heard her affliction. In response, Hagar calls the Lord El Roi, which means God who sees. I know this story feels like a testament to anti-patience, but here's why I think it matters. To me, this reads as a beautiful example of how God's patient love shows up for us no matter what circumstances we find ourselves in. Sarah had been waiting so long to become a mother, and instead of continuing to be patient, she used Hagar as a way to speed up the process and start her family. God's promise to her for her future offspring was right around the corner, but she chose not to be patient and instead used the body of her slave for her own purposes. Sarah being barren challenged Abraham's faith, even though God had made a covenant with him about his future children in Genesis 12. God says to him, "I will make you into a great nation, and I will bless you." Later in Genesis 15, God reiterates the promise, saying to Abraham, "Look up at the sky and count the stars if you can indeed count them. So shall your offspring be." Hagar's ability to conceive and produce an heir for Abraham would have made her the primary wife in society's eyes at the time, and it made Hagar have a tremendous lack of respect for Sarah, and she treated her poorly. Nobody in this story makes a good choice, and God shows his patient love for all of them, regardless of what they were doing. God continues to be patient with all of them and intervenes to reconcile them, as seen in Genesis 16, 9-10, where the angel of the Lord speaks to Hagar, comforting and encouraging her. Another example of God's patience can be seen in Genesis 17 and 18, when he affirms the promise of offspring to Abraham and Sarah, even though they're both advanced in age. Despite their doubt and waiting for many years, God remains patient and faithful to his promise. Throughout the Bible, God is described as a patient and loving God who is slow to anger and abounds in steadfast love. He's often patient with his people, even in the face of their shortcomings and mistakes. Love is patient, even when we get it wrong.